The gap between the rich and the poor is widening, and it doesn't seem like there's any end in sight. The rich are getting richer, while the poor are getting poorer. And this disparity is only going to continue to grow. There doesn't seem to be any hope for those stuck at the bottom, as the rich continue to pull away from the rest of society. Making money doesn't have to be difficult. There are only 4 ways to do it. This is why the rich keep getting richer, because they understand these concepts and utilize them to their advantage. You may have heard of Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. But few people know that he wrote a second book on the subject, The Cash Flow Quadrant. In this follow-up work, Kiyosaki explains the 4 different types of income and how they operate. The categories are created by the combination of mindset, cash flow, and taxes. The safety of employees is always a top priority, so we'll start with the E quadrant. The letter E represents an employee. This is where most people begin their lives. People in the E quadrant usually have an established mindset that puts income security on employer benefits, such as a retirement account or health insurance, above other things. A key word for describing someone in the A quadrant would be safe. People who fall under this quadrant earn money by working in a company or for the government and get paid a regular salary. Even though people here can have high-paying jobs, such as being a doctor or lawyers, it's still difficult to become wealthy because of how this system is set up. For example, employees often don't have much control over their income because raises are based on their supervisor's discretion. The only way to generate income in this group is by finding a job or finishing their education. And even then, there are only a limited number of ways to do so, with most taxes going towards these 2 options. When an employee works, for example, their employer deducts money from their paycheck for taxes before they receive payment. The best way to reduce how much is spent on taxes in this category is through IRAs and 401k retirement plans by postponing some taxes. Individuals who fall into this category are responsible for federal income taxes that could amount to 35% of their total earnings. On top of that, they may also have to pay state and municipal taxes, which rates differ depending on the location. High earners especially might see an increase in the percentage they owe due to Social Security tax and Medicare tax obligations. The S quadrant stands for self-employed. People in this category are business owners, freelancers, and contractors. They have more control over their time and income than those in the E quadrant because they are not restricted by working hours. They're also able to work from anywhere as long as they have internet access. The main downside of being self-employed is that there's no safety net. If the business fails, they're left with nothing. There are 2 types of self-employed individuals: solopreneurs and entrepreneurs. Solopreneurs are one-man bands who provide a service or sell a product. They're usually very good at what they do and have loyal customers. On the other hand, entrepreneurs build companies to scale them. They're often risk-takers who are always looking for the next ample opportunity. Self-employed people have to pay self-employment tax, which is 15.3% of their net income. Like everyone else, they're also responsible for federal, state, and local taxes. The biggest difference is that they don't have an employer to withhold taxes from their paycheck. They have to do it themselves. This can be a challenge, especially if they're not used to managing their finances. The B quadrant is for business owners. These are the people who own the S quadrant companies. They may not necessarily be the ones running the day-to-day operations, still they're the ones who reap the rewards or suffer the consequences of the business. The key word for people in the B quadrant is leverage. Business owners have more control over their time and income than those in the S quadrant because they can delegate tasks to others. They also have access to capital that they can use to grow their businesses. However, this comes with a lot of responsibility. Business owners are responsible for their employees and need to make sure that their businesses are profitable. Business owners have to pay corporate tax, which is 21% of their net income. In addition, they may have to pay state and local taxes. They're also responsible for self-employment tax if they're actively involved in the business. The I quadrant is for investors. The I quadrant is great for anyone looking to transform their money into wealth. One of the best things about this quadrant is that anyone can start investing and reaping the benefits, regardless of which other quadrant they are in. Although there are plenty of opportunities in this quadrant, investing requires financial resources. People acquire capital in many ways. Some utilize their work to generate income, save it, and invest it. Others may have more original ideas about obtaining capital or collaborating with someone who does. The I quadrant mentality is focused on making money without sacrificing time and acquiring assets that make passive income. Even though investors still spend time managing their investments and making decisions in many circumstances, revenue is no longer generated by the investor's time. The development and protection of riches are the objectives of someone in this group. While someone can become wealthy in the B quadrant, long-term prosperity can only be attained by excelling in the I quadrant. Wealth accumulation is a crucial concept for someone in the I quadrant. The I quadrant has many chances for creating wealth, like standard stock investments and business ownership to real estate and private equity. Though investors typically focus on 3 wealth builders. Cash flow comes in first. The income an investor derives from their assets is what's called passive income. It comes from sources such as ownership in companies that generate steady revenue or real estate that generates rental income. The key here is to generate enough passive cash flow from your assets to support your lifestyle. The second is appreciation. Appreciation is the increase in value and growth and asset experience over time. In addition to cash flow, your goal should be to increase the value of your assets from today until tomorrow. This increases your riches and gives you the power to control within the I quadrant. Taxes are the third. I quadrant offers investors many tax advantages and available in other quadrants, including the ability to increase wealth substantially without paying taxes. For instance, real estate is often cited as an excellent option for I quadrant investors. The 1031 exchange is a tool used in the real estate industry that allows investors to sell an asset, defer taxes on the profit, and use the proceeds to purchase another piece of real estate. Investors can effectively increase their net worth tax-free by deferring taxes on assets until they are sold. Some investors take advantage of this by continuing to roll over their gains from one asset to the next without paying any taxes. Many investors can take out loans and use existing assets as collateral to purchase new ones, allowing the rich to get even richer without selling off current holdings. The goal, according to Kiyosaki, is to move from the left side of the quadrant, E and S, to the right side, B and I. This is because the left side is based on exchanging time for money, while the right side is based on generating money through assets. The left side is also more volatile, since employment can be unstable. In contrast, the right side is more stable and predictable. Making a move from the left side to the right side of the quadrant is not always easy, but it is possible. But it can be done if you're willing to make an effort to be rich and get even richer. It requires a change in mindset, as well as a willingness to learn new skills. Thank you for watching. I hope you have learned something from this video. If you like this video, give us a like and subscribe to the channel. Thank you and goodbye.